One thing that makes this postseason so interesting, we always talk about it. We always want to see a postseason where everything is wide open, where it's really unpredictable. This is the first time in a very, very long time where 4 lower seeds were able to win in the first round. Golden State was the latest team to do it. They knocked off the number 3 seed Sacramento Kings in embarrassing fashion in Golden One Center here in Game 7. Curry goes for 50 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. This was one of the most iconic Steph Curry games of his career. Sometimes when we watch it, we don't really realize it, but when we look at things and we line over some of the best Steph Curry games, this is going to go in there as one of them. He completely torched them in that second half.
It definitely is, because I looked up, I didn't realize, I think he had 20 in the first half, but then I didn't realize by the end of the third, I was like, damn, he got 40 going into the fourth?
Man.
I was like, he must have just been cooking them, because it's just like, they forgot who they were facing. They're facing the best shooter of all time. You have to keep your eyes on him at all times at the game. And I feel like at one point they just gave up and just stopped. And I felt like Coach Brown should have played Davion Mitchell a little bit more, especially in this game, because I felt like he did the best. I'm not saying he locked Steph down, because he didn't, but he did the best job out of anybody on the Kings on him. So I felt like he should have played more.
Curry did. The interesting thing here is this about Curry scoring. He did go crazy from 3, but there were a lot of looks in the paint. Like, there were a lot of times where he was able to break somebody down in the perimeter, get to the basket. That was an issue a lot for Sacramento, was keeping some of those Golden State guys from beating them off the dribble. It happened a lot. Curry beat a lot of guys off the dribble here tonight, and all of his points came at half court. Like, the most interesting thing is, all these points, all 50 of his points Curry scored outside of the free throws were all half court buckets. Right, like we see a lot of times maybe Curry get these running like transition threes or whatever. Everything here came in the half court setting. So these were true buckets, breaking guys down, knocking shots down. It was ridiculous to see. I knew the game was relatively close, like late second half, but I knew once he had like around 20 or whatever at the end of that first half, I was like, this is about to get out of hand, because now you're asking a young team. Whenever Curry's hot, whenever he's on fire, no matter what, if the game is relatively close, no matter what happens, whenever Curry's hot, if you're the opposing team, you're on the ropes. So now your question becomes, how do we respond? How do we try to weather this storm? Because we know it's coming. We know Curry's about to go crazy. How do we weather this storm a little bit, and try to stay in this game and not get demoralized? And the Kings just couldn't come up with an answer, and it was apparent in that second half.
First of all, I think you can weather the storm by not getting out-rebounded like they did. It's 2 things that will hurt you if you play the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs. If you let Clay or Steph go off, or even both of them, you're done. But if you let one of them go off and you get out-rebounded, you're not going to win the game. Because what is getting out-rebounded lead to, especially on the offensive, like giving up offensive rebounds? At least the second chance points. What do you not want to give Steph and Clay? Second chance points. Once you give them those, you're going to probably lose the game.
Yep.
So I feel like rebounding was the main reason they definitely lost the game. Of course, not giving 50 points to Steph. That's a big reason. But other than that, it was definitely rebounding.
This had to be one of the things that Mike Brown draws up like on the board. Like, if you talk about the things, okay, here are the 5 things we need to focus on today. Let's keep these guys off the offensive glass, especially Kevon Looney. This had to be one of those things, and they couldn't do it. I mean, I think a lot of this, it falls on Sabonis. He's an all-star. A lot of people had him in the MVP conversation, at least top 5. I saw some list that had Sabonis top 5 in the MVP conversation. If you're this game and a lot of games this series came down to him just straight up getting outworked by Kevon Looney. I'm hearing Jeff Van Gundy over the mic talking about rebounding fundamentals, box out fundamentals. If you're an all-star big guy and you're putting up double-digit rebounds per game in the regular season, and that's your whole MO, that's why you're an all-star, amongst other things, it shouldn't come down to this. He got flat-out outworked. All of those offensive boards Kevon Looney got, maybe at the worst, 98% of them came off of Kevon Looney box outs. All of them. You know what I mean?
If you give the opposing center 10 rebounds, okay, he's a center. I'm not really tripping off that. But anytime you get into the 15s, the 17s, even 20s where you're giving up to the opposing center, that is terrible.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, it's fundamentals. Everybody, even little kids know this when they play basketball at little AAUs or like any type of league they play. Box out if you want to get a rebound. It's like he wasn't even trying to box out. He was just looking at the rim, just assuming the ball would just come down to him. You gotta get your ass down low, box out, use your frame, get the rebound.
He got outworked like Kevon Looney was like, it was literally like he was outworking him. Like, it's the first time I'm paying attention to box outs, because I was counting how many times am I going to see Sabonis get out rebounded, right? Like, this series shouldn't come down, but we see this a lot with Golden State, where the opposing team may be right there, right? Like they're keeping the game close enough. It just comes down to those little things, and that speaks to Golden State throughout this entire dynasty, throughout this whole Steve Kerr and Steph Curry era, the whole Splash Bros core, or whatever. These last almost 10 years, they we can talk about the offensive sets. We can talk about the pretty stuff like the ability to make shots, the defense and all of that, their depth, strength, and numbers. We can talk about all of that. But one thing they did so well throughout this dynasty is they did the little things at a high level. And we saw it again here. This was a game Sacramento could have won, but it was those little things that destroyed them. And also, too, those, it translated to the offensive end. Sacramento put up a lot of rush shots, a lot of shots they shouldn't have put up there. I know De'Aaron Fox got stripped a lot of times in the lane, and he didn't have the best game. But no matter which way you cut it, this one came down to losing the fifth, like Mike Brown said it, losing the 50-50 balls, just those little things. This is what that game came down to. And we've seen Golden State beat teams like this all the time. And
it's just a shame because I don't want to make an excuse because you mentioned De'Aaron Fox. I don't want to make an excuse for De'Aaron Fox, but he did have a broken finger on his shooting hand.
Yeah.
So it's going to cause you to do some things uncharacteristically that you wouldn't do if you didn't have a broken hand. So I'm not going to give him a pass, but I understand why he would struggle a little bit because since he's had that fracture on his left hand, he hasn't really been the same accurate player from a shooting perspective. But you just can't in a game 7. I know they're a young team and they overachieved this postseason, but you can't in game 7 just give up like that. It looked like they quit at one point in the second half.
Yeah.
So, and even with Steph, I know he had 50, but a lot of those points he had in the fourth quarter is when they just basically just quit and they were already about down by 15 and they just didn't care. You can see it.
You could tell, like, I remember he had an ISO here. I think it was Trey Lyles guarding him. And I was watching the game. I was like, bro, we know what this is about to turn into. It's about to turn into a step back three. It's finna get beat off the dribble. Like, a lot of times it was demoralizing. But like I said, this is a young Kings team. They needed it, and I'm not going to get mad at it because, as I mentioned, and as you mentioned too, they overachieved. They weren't supposed to get this deep. As I said, they were the higher seed, but to me, they were still the underdog. Like game 7 against the defending champions, and you haven't been to the playoffs in 16 years, you're the underdog. So they overachieved. They did better than what we thought. Nobody could have mapped out besides you. Nobody mapped them out getting this deep here against this Golden State Warriors team. So I'm gonna give them credit for that, but it's always disappointing when you know that they're this close to making it happen. It just came down to those 50-50 balls, and I guarantee if they would have executed on that offensively, things would have looked a little bit more prettier. Like that second half, it looks like they were playing offense out of desperation, which doesn't happen if you take advantage defensively a little bit more.
You know what I would compare this series to for Steph? I would say it's just like, I know this is wild, it's like LeBron beating the Celtics in 2018. When the Celtics probably just had a better team, but we all knew that an inexperience would just not be the great player. The great players always seem to take advantage of the inexperience against a young team in the playoffs. Most of the time, they always prevail. So I'm kind of thinking this series was just kind of that for Steph versus the Kings because he had the whole team had their times where they just looked older and they just looked like they were just not the better team. But experience sometimes will beat the better team, even if they're younger or whatever the case may be, or have younger legs, or the team is older. They will beat the more inexperienced team. And I feel like you can definitely compare that series to that series in 2018, Cleveland versus the Celtics. That's
translatable across the board for basketball too. Like college basketball as well. Like I'm always gonna bet if I'm seeing. I mean, I don't know the specifics of it all, but like I'm always gonna bet against a team that's probably got more 3 or 4 year guys than a Kentucky team that's got a Fab Five full of freshmen. Starting 5 full of freshmen. Like I'm always gonna bet because experience always gonna play a factor. It may have not shown. It showed a little bit throughout the first couple of games, but here in game 7, you're up against the ropes. Curry starts going on this run. Now you're the young team. You're forced to have to figure out how to try to weather the storm and respond to it. And it's just tough. It's just really tough. And that's where all of that is going to come back on you. So that's why you always bet with the team that's done it. And Golden State's been in millions of game 7s during this Curry era. Millions. So it's tough to go against that. Curry didn't look rushed or phased at all, which is the thing about him is he doesn't look rushed or phased at any point in time during these games, even with the missed free throws. Like it was kind of like, all right, I'm finna turn this on. Y'all know I'm finna like you can see in his eyes he's about to turn it on. So it's tough asking a young team to try to figure out how to respond to it, especially if we're talking arguably the greatest point guard of all time.
Yeah, if he wins another championship, he probably is the best. I'm be honest with you, and I don't like saying that because I don't like the Warriors. But you mentioned Steph has been in a lot of Game 7s. The one he lost was against LeBron. So if he gets into Game 7 with the Lakers, he's not winning. I'm just saying that right now, he's not. But just a little shade I threw. But yeah, it just came down to, because the Kings overachieved and they made it this far, they actually had us, or some people thinking, okay, maybe they can win this series, but them losing made us realize most of the time these inexperienced young teams are not going to beat the more experienced team. It's just most likely it's just not going to happen, and that's just what this proves to me. It's an unrealistic thing, and we just had to face reality. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, so. But the stakes, man, if they did win, though, it would have been like one of those it would have been one of the best playoff series wins ever. And people are going to be like, well, the Kings were the better team all season and they were the higher seed. It doesn't matter, bro. The playoffs is a different game and Game 7 is a different game. I don't care what way you cut it. The Kings were the underdog in this game. They just were.
Golden State were the defending champs. Anytime the defending champs go out in the first round, I don't care what seed they are. If they're a lower seed or higher seed than the team they're facing, that is a huge upset.
Yeah.
Because most teams that are defending champs, we're expecting them to either get back or at least get to conference finals.
Yeah.
So it would have been one of the most probably betting odds favorites upset ever. So whoever betted against Golden State, if the Kings would have won, I'm assuming that person would have been a rich person. Yeah. The payout would have been large.
Yeah, man. I mean, somebody in Vegas, I don't know the Vegas things. Like I had to go. I don't really look at that, but somebody may have had the Kings being the favorites, something like that. But to me, no matter what it comes down to, bro, this game, I knew the pressure was on Sacramento. Like was the pressure on Sacramento? I wouldn't say the pressure was on Sacramento, but coming into this game, they were. I wasn't confident with. I went back and forth on it. I know I told you I had him Game 7, but you're just thinking this is Curry Game 7. It's tough to bet. It's tough to think they're actually going to do it. I know I said a couple of episodes ago that I was going to go with them, but I sat down and thought about it, I was like, man, it's just tough to go against Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson in a Game 7. You know what I'm saying?
I picked the Kings to win it also, so I'm not going to act like I didn't. But in the back of my head, you were saying, yeah, they probably go win games. I was like, don't jinx them, because they could definitely lose that game. Because I honestly think the turning point of this series wasn't Game 3. It was Game 4 when Harrison Barnes missed that wide open 3. So they can go up in the series 3-1. I feel like if they would have went up in the series 3-1, they definitely would have won the series. Yeah. But the fact that they missed that shot, I felt like that was their chance, and they missed out on it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. When you have those opportunities, they say every game matters, bro. Like when you have those opportunities to take those commanding leads, you got to take advantage there. But, Sacramento got punched, like it's got to happen. Like everything, you can't win a championship every year. Everything ain't going to be perfect. You have this great season. At least you know where to go from here, right? Like off season, you probably invest in getting some more physical guys down low, because we know the Sabonis thing just was tragic today, or really this whole series. You got out rebounded. You got embarrassed on the boards by Kevon Looney this whole series. We can look at the stats, and Sabonis may have been better, but the better big guy, if I'm watching the game, through every game here this series, and if I'm a GM, I'm like, who would I rather have? It'd be Kevon Looney, So I think investing, getting more physical down low, whatever the case may be, that's something they need to get better at,
Because I don't care. Sabonis had 20 points, 10 rebounds. To me, a game that Kevon Looney would have in 8 points or 7 points and 22 rebounds is just better, because the impact of the 22 rebounds can lead to double digit points off of those rebounds. It can lead to 40 points just like that if you continue to hit shots. So you should not be getting, because let's be honest, Kevon Looney is a role player. You're an all-star getting outplayed at least on the defensive end or offensive end, depending on how you look at it, by a role player. You cannot be getting out rebounded by a role player, and you're the same height as them basically. Can't happen. So
this is the second night we were embarrassed by big man play. Like yesterday it was Jokic and Ayton, and we were embarrassed by it. Not embarrassed. We were disappointed in Ayton the way he was playing, and today we're disappointed in another all-star big, and DeMontis Sabonis with how he played, against Kevon Looney. So it was bad. It was a trash performance. It was bad, and you, like I said, the stats may come up good, but if you watched, you knew that he was kind of out of his league a little bit this series against Kevon Looney. You just knew it.
It wasn't even that. Even on the offensive end, I'm telling you, he got stripped so many times.
Yeah, smoked.
I'm just like, it actually made me. I'm not a Kings fan, not a Warriors fan. It just made me mad as a basketball fan, seeing a dude that is 7 feet. Every time he gets the ball in the paint, he gets stripped. Draymond Green stripped him, if I had to guess, probably 20 times in the last probably four games. Because as soon as he came back from that suspension, I swear he stripped him every time he got in the lane. Klay Thompson stripped him, Kevon Looney stripped him. I'm like, dude, hold on to the ball. It was like he was hunting for fouls too. He kept looking at the ref like, foul. No, dude, you just got stripped.
Yeah.
He just played soft. He played soft this whole series, basically.
He plays soft. You know,
outside of game 1 or 2, he basically plays soft the rest of his games.
And it was an important series because I think it was going to kind of tell us, okay, what type of player is he, right? Like, is he in that same conversation? Can he get in that same conversation as a couple of other guys? This series, and he has time. He's young, relatively, but this series kind of showed us, he ain't there just yet. He's still a hell of a player, but he ain't there just yet.
He even struggled to shoot. I thought he could shoot.
Yeah.
I actually thought he could shoot. I was so when they were leaving him wide open and he looked like he was struggling to even make a 15-foot jumper, and I was like, damn, dude, like I thought you could shoot.
Or
like,
he wasn't taking him.
He wasn't taking him. He was struggling to shoot. Like I legit thought, I'm not saying he was a 3-point shooter or anything, but I thought he could make a 15-foot jumper. Like he looked like he was uncomfortable taking that shot. So I don't even know if I definitely lost confidence in the type of player he is. I think I don't know if he even make an all-star team again. I'm gonna be honest.
If
he might make a few, but he just might be one of those players that is just an all-star that's on his resume, but he's not really an all-star, if that makes sense.
When it comes down to it. You know, when it all comes to, like, there was a lot of time he spent with his back turned to the basket. Like, he'll probably be at the top of the key, and he's some Ben Simmons shit that we saw from him today. There was some Ben Simmons stuff that we saw. All right, let's keep it a buck. It was a lot of smoke layups. It was, and he's still a hell of a player. I'm not gonna take away from what he did this season, but that stuff has to translate to the playoffs. But I'm not mad at Sacramento. They overachieved. More credit to Golden State because the shot making from Curry and Klay made a couple of major shots was off the charts. I'm interested to see how things move with this second round between them and the Lakers. We know the Lakers are going to give them more of a physical test. The Lakers have a lot of momentum. This Lakers team is tough, and we get that Steph Curry LeBron dynamic again. We haven't gotten that since 2018, and we haven't gotten that where we haven't gotten a Steph Curry and LeBron series where LeBron wasn't completely outmatched in a very long time. You know what I'm saying?
Basically since 2016.
Yeah. Some may say 2017 or whatever, but
we might have thought it was evenly matched, but once we saw them games play out,
it was
because just they didn't, like Kevin Love was not the same player. I think that was the difference in that series for real. The first time they faced each other with KD, but I got Lakers in 6. I'm just saying.
Okay, I have.
You better not. LeBron not go. LeBron fully healthy. I don't care who it's against. KD is not on that team anymore. We all know when the playing fields are even, LeBron beats Steph. We've seen it.
I don't have a pick, but I know it's going to go 7. I think this is going to be a very intriguing series. I have no idea where the series is going to go. I have no idea. I'm gonna just say it's going to go 7. I'm gonna just say it's going to go 7.
I don't either. I'm never like, why would I pick the Warriors? I can't. Like literally, why? And the crazy thing is when Steph made his first finals, I was like, because the first game I acknowledged Steph where he was great is when against the Knicks, he had like 55. I don't remember that game against in New York or whatever. I was like, oh, this dude cold. Yeah. And he came out with the Under Armours. He made me want to buy some Under Armours, but I realized I'm not buying no Under Armours. Yeah. But I was like, damn, he cold. But then I was like, damn, he facing LeBron in the finals. I don't know who I'm gonna root for. So I couldn't do it. But then I started to hate him after he beat
after they made that dynasty, man. Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be one of the most interesting second rounds we've seen in a while for sure. And like I said, this entire postseason, we wanted it. We wanted a postseason where we didn't know what direction everything was going to go into, and we've got it. We've got it. All 8 seeds are represented here, regardless of conference. All 8 seeds are represented here. Number 1 seed Nuggets, 2 seed Celtics, 3 seed Sixers, 4 seed Suns, 5 Knicks, 6 Warriors, 7 Lakers, 8 Heat. Like that's had that. Like, I don't know the last time that's happened, if it's even happened before. It may not have, but that's such a unique thing, and that speaks to how wide open everything is right now.
This is potentially, and I'm trying to think, and I've been watching basketball since probably I was 2007, 2008, somewhere around there, since I was like 8 or 9 or whatever.
Yeah. This
might be the most competitive playoffs ever since I started watching basketball. Like in my era of watching basketball, and I'm only 21, so it's not a long time, but this is the most competitive playoffs I've seen.
Yeah, it's up there. It's definitely up. It's definitely the most interesting. I can't wait to see how things go here. Heat Knicks, we got a good game 1. I think that's going to be a great series, and we'll just kind of see what happens from there. But that Lakers Warriors is going to be very interesting. Very interesting.